What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Peace, Love, and Meat. We are catching up after a couple of weeks.
What's up,
How's it
guys? It's going good, man. As you know, it's been hectic, as you know from yourself and myself, and
Yeah.
seemingly everyone we know. It's been some crazy, challenging, weird times. I think one of the things I think is going on is we're kind of getting back into that swing of normal, like normal life, normal pace. But I think after that big long slowdown, it feels so much faster.
Yeah.
And things have changed.
The floor of normal pace is different.
Yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
And everything is just wildly expensive right now. Things are just different. Things are just different. And I think for people like me or people like yourself or just the average person, there's a lot of challenges to that adaptation. When I think it's the telltale signs that I'm getting older, because everything I'm talking about is the way things were,
Yeah, right.
So
Back in my day.
But it's just been a weird couple of months, and like the year is seemingly flying by. It's already coming to the end of March, and I
First
don't know where it
quarter's
went,
almost
'cause,
over.
New Year's hunt in Mexico, Winter Strong. I mean, it just boom, ba boom, ba boom, and then I was looking at the calendar for this year, and it's gonna be nonstop. Like it's not
Because you got your
gonna slow down.
international. This is like your international hunt year. You're on your every
Yeah.
other schedule, right?
Yeah, I got some turkeys, and then Australia, Argentina, Africa, and then pigs and whitetails. Putting in for elk in New Mexico today.
Oh,
And
what about bear?
yeah, definitely bear. I mean,
we're gonna get a bear one in.
that is absolutely going to happen. It has to happen. It's daunting when you start looking at it, because it's like, if it's coming down to a turkey hunt or a bear hunt, I'm going bear hunting.
Yeah.
But I do have one guy in particular that really just made me an impossible offer to refuse. We'll probably go out there to see him and get some turkeys or chase some turkeys. And then that's pretty much, if I get one more turkey, because I got the one in Mexico.
Right.
I'm not really like married to turkey hunting. I've killed a lot of turkeys in my life, but it's been more because it was in season and I could, not necessarily like that burning passion for it. Like, I know some guys, they love turkey hunting more than they do deer hunting.
Right.
And that's the same for anything. Like the waterfowl guys, some of those guys are crazy. Like, they don't want to hunt anything else but waterfowl.
I have a guy that he goes to my jiu-jitsu gym, and he got a moose this year, and it's like in Idaho moose, eastern Idaho.
Yeah.
But he's a huge duck guy. Like, that's his thing. And I was talking to him about it, and he goes, I mean, like, it was awesome experience, like once in a lifetime, literally, for moose in Idaho. And he's like, it was amazing, great scenario, like had great shot. Oh, everything about it was awesome. He's like, I don't know, man. He's like, I'll just go sit in my boat and have my dogs, and like I'd prefer that any day of the week. And I'm like, that's literally whatever floats your boat, dude. But
yeah,
it's crazy.
Well, it's like, I've done some duck hunting with some guys. Like, so the duck hunting that I'm used to around here had a little honey hole pond that was like, it was the only water within several miles, at least a couple miles in every direction. And there was this L-shaped tree line, and you could literally take a 5-gallon bucket, put a little like a muddy hunting pillow top on top of it, sit in the corner of that L, and then the ducks you would hear them, and they, every morning, doesn't matter, they would come right to that pond. You could fill your limit every day. Like, no kidding, you could get four ducks and a goose every day. And
that's awesome.
So I did that quite a bit. And quite a bit being probably 10, 12 times. Yeah. But it was like, there was no challenge to it. There was no waiting for it, because if you were there before sunup, once the sun hit, you were going to shoot a duck, or at least a few. Yep. So I went with some guys that are like big time Kansas area duck hunters, like the Midwestern duck hunter.
Yep.
I want no part of it. They get up at they go to bed at like 1 o'clock in the morning. They're up at like 2:30. And they're just like geeked as hell to go. And I'm like, dude, I could sleep 4 more hours. And I'm like, well, we got to do this and do this. And I mean, they brought 7,000
I was going to say that those guys with the decoys are nuts, dude.
I mean, they literally had like a pull behind trailer full of decoys.
Yep.
It was an operation that I have yet to bear witness to anything else like it. But it was
Yeah.
fun. We killed a lot of ducks, and I'm glad I did it.
Yeah.
But I didn't leave there thinking like, man, I'm going to go buy a trailer and a bunch of decoys and keep doing this, you know?
Dude, when I went on that sage grouse hunt in Wyoming a couple of years ago, that was because I've done a little bit of bird hunting just growing up. Like that's some of the only hunting I
Yeah.
did do prior to like actually getting into it after college, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But going on that sage grouse hunt and having like an actual dude with a dog that's like, this dog is the real deal. Like it was one of the coolest things to watch ever. Like I think we probably walked, I think he said something like close to 9 miles that day. And it's
Mm-hmm.
real easy walking. I mean, you're just on your
Yeah.
feet all day because literally it's just desert. So, I mean, there's
Yeah.
hardly any elevation at all, like unless you just dip down into these little crevices every once in a while. But his dog did like 23 and a half, like just zipping around and doing everything and watching that dog work, like and actually work like that. It's one of the coolest
Yeah.
things ever. But it reminded me of the scene in Wedding Crashers when they're out hunting quail
Oh yeah.
and they're all walking in their they're all walking in their line. Like that's what it felt like because we're literally you get like 6 feet between you and everybody just walks through the stage and the
Yep.
dog will stop and then he'll be like, all right, everybody ready, and then he'll just say, and he'll almost whisper it. He'll be like, all right, go. And the dog will push forward and flush them all up. And
Yep.
those things like grouse they're really good tasting birds. Like I did when I brought them home. I got two that I brought home from that trip and did one of them like slow cooker, like shredded pork style. And that's honestly what those tasted more like to me.
Mm-hmm.
It was more like a shredded pork kind of flavor on them because they're real. Even the breast meat on those sage grouse is real dark.
Yeah.
And it was super good. So that's one of those ones where I would do that again because I think maybe it's being out and moving around and covering land, like that part of it I think was a little bit more appealing to me than, like you said, you can just kind of squat down and sit in a hole and wait and you'll get something. Like I kind of like the roaming around a little bit more. But I'm a desert kid,
well that was
so like that's literally everywhere I grew up was all the desert, you know.
I'm similar to that on pheasant, you know.
Yeah.
I've loved watching the dogs work. That's one of the coolest things is like the level of training that those dogs have and the level of obedience and discipline that they have is unreal and it's natural to them. But that's you have to kind of like provoke the excellence. Did that, went on that hunt with Mickler and those guys. We hunted in Hawaii that year and then we hunted in Minnesota later.
Right.
And that was a really great group of guys. Actually, one of them, Rick, just started kind of a brokerage for international hunts in Africa and I think in South America. So he's putting together some package deals on that. So anybody that's interested, onelife.solive is my buddy Rick, and he's putting those out there. And they're very, I mean, when you see $5,000, that can be like a huge burden for a lot of people. All of this stuff is like you can make payments on it. You just got to put a little down. And then you can make payments on it. And that's honestly, you know, when I was looking at some of these guys, like $20,000 grizzly hunt, you just imagine a guy smacking 20 grand down because he's loaded. Right. What you come to find out is, you know, one guy I know paid 4 years on a $22,000 grizzly bear hunt. Wow. He put $2,000 down, and then it was like $250 a month or something for the, you know, the duration of it. And, or something, it was something like that, 4 or 5 years, whatever.
It makes it a little bit more doable the payment for was most very people.
Minimal. And I mean, a grizzly, and I mean, it's crazy that any animal is 20 grand, but you have Marco Polos that are 80, 90 grand. You have some of the desert bighorns that are 80 grand, some of the stuff like that. So, you know, I will never be one of those guys, but you know, a grizzly bear, you know, kind of as a swan song. Hey, I'm turning 60 this year. Let's go do a grizzly bear or something. That I could see potentially something like that, but it's still doubtful because it's just, you know, it's such a hard hunt. Like we were talking about Randy Cooling before we started recording, and I think it's doll sheep, and they're up there. They're very expensive, and I think he's been on 2 and not filled his tag. So it's kind of like, do you keep kind of chasing the dragon, so to say, or do you just say, you know what, that one's not for me? Because I mean, man, I can't eat $5,000 for, walking
Nothing.
around. You know what I mean? Like that's a,
Twice.
well, it's more than $5,000, but I'm saying like even on an elk
Yeah.
hunt or something, but
Yeah.
to go back to Rick in Africa, when you look at $5,000, in the States, you're going to get a premium whitetail for that price range, a mule deer. And I'm talking a hunt package with an outfitter that guarantees you nothing as far as
Yeah.
a kill or success, but they give you a
Hmm.
place to stay. They give you intel. They help you glass. They help you clean the animal if you do succeed. But what you get in Africa is probably 4X. You'll get 4 to 5 animals for that $5,000. And these are impala and warthog and wildebeest and maybe even something more. But the dollar over there goes so much further.
Yeah.
And the conservation, like I was very skeptical on Africa until I went. And I am sure, absolutely positive, that there are scumbags and dirtbags and backdoor deals that happen over there all the time. But the operation that I saw and the other operations that I've gotten to know, man, they could not be more pristine. It is very much about the continuation of having those species, because right now this is kind of getting off track, but very cool to know. China has come into Africa much like they have in South America, and they have promised infrastructure. They've promised roadways and buildings and all this stuff. And what now is happening to these animals is because China has so much more capability to come over and build than the African countries do. These landowners are looking at, well, the Chinese will pay me X amount for my land right now, and it's
Right.
it's 5 years worth of hunting. You know, so it's like if there's nothing to be hunted, that property value is zero. So there's no vegetation that's going to grow in a lot of these places. If they do, it's minimal sales.
Yeah.
So as ugly as this sounds, those animals need to have a price point to bring value to the land, to sustain the land that the animals can then live on.
Yeah.
It's a very controlled amount. It's not like if 100 people went over there and said, hey, I've got $10,000. We all want to kill a lion, which it's $8,000 to $10,000 to kill a male lion. If there's only 50 lions on there, they're only going to kill probably 2 or 3. They're not going to kill all 50. They're not going to take 10 grand for every lion that's there. They would decimate their population. So it really is a biological assessment of the animal's well-being as a herd, as a pride, how they coexist, cohabitat. And it's much more calculated and scaled than people could ever imagine.
Right.
Did you know that the way that they do the tags here in the States, like for whitetail example, the number of animals hit on the roadway there's an algorithm that determines the number of tags that are given to the state to hunt. I mean, there's other biological testing and observation that's done as well, but that is one of the things that they notice. More animals are hit when the population gets too high. They need to get more tags. They need to have more successful hunters. So it's a very, very, it's a murky water kind of business, but it is in the name of conservation, because right now the Chinese will take every single bit of hunting land and they will turn it either into zoos or ultra premium hunting lands with high fences, and the animals will be 10x, the cost that they are now. And, it's just a problem. But anyway, back to all this other stuff. I've been dealing with my bow a lot lately here, trying to get everything just perfect. I'm kind of obsessive about it, as you know, and I know you've been shooting a lot at the range and everything, but I spent some time, got my Hoyt after Mexico. I got new strings, built new arrows, kind of getting 2024. And I like to have all 3 bows set. That way, if I tear a string or, whatever, I've got option. On my Buana longbow today, I really want to hunt with this bow all year long. I don't want to pick up the Hoyt at all. Yeah. I want to have the Hoyt ready. I want to have it shooting good. I'll keep shooting it in the yard.
Just use it as the backup.
I want to hunt exclusively with this longbow, and kind of telling you beforehand, building this a little counter to the normal way that I build arrows. I usually like a little bit heavier arrow. I like the kinetic energy, the impact. But Randy Cooling, a guy that we mentioned also, he shoots a much, much lighter arrow than I've ever even heard of or been used to. And I'm building somewhere in between those two. So a midline between my by most traditional classifications, what I would build would be midline, but I'm going midline between myself and what Randy would build. So trying to get a little more speed, a little more, a little smaller gaps. So
Hmm.
it's tighter aiming. But dude, absolutely freaking love this Buona longbow. Like it is
Are
so
you a
much fun to
convert
shoot.
now? Do you think you're like,
I don't, I don't
because
want to
that's the
say
next
I'm
step, right? Isn't that I mean, like that kind of is the natural, like it's the same thing when
recurve
guys
to
do
longbow to self bow. Yeah.
yep, exactly. Compound to recurve, like you just are taking through the steps, which means in 7 months I'll be right where
Yeah.
you are.
Well, dude, I'll tell you, man, like, the recurve, it just kind of has that power band. It's kind of like having a two-stroke motorcycle versus a four-stroke.
Yeah.
The power band on that two-stroke is just overwhelming and it can get away
Hmm.
from you. That's a recurve. Like those
Yep.
bent arms on the bow make it so much more powerful. This is kind of like ballet versus like clogging.
Yep.
Like the longbow is like
It's a good
sophisticated
analogy.
and smooth.
Yeah.
The recurve is it's probably closer to rock and roll than it is
Yeah.
clogging, but
Yep.
it's a big difference. But I'm really enjoying it. I'm learning so much, and I guess my telltale sign is when I start getting interested in a person, I kind of watch what they do, listen to
Hmm.
what their ideas are about shooting, and then it's like, oh, well, this guy, he went to a longbow and he does this with his arrows, and he likes this brace height and this kind of stuff. Just I go down the rabbit hole on individuals and learn as
Yeah.
much about them and their history and how they hunt, how they think as I can. And then through them, they'll be like, well, there's this guy, Jim Watson, out in California that told me
Hmm.
this. Well, then I'll find Jim Watson on YouTube or
Right.
on Spotify.
Right.
So I've been doing a lot of that stuff. And I know you had some stuff to talk about, but that kind of ties
Hmm.
into the Japanese stuff that I was telling you about earlier. But how are
Hmm.
you shooting right now?
Pretty good actually. Last night, we've only got last night, and then next week is our next week's our final night of the indoor league because now it's springtime and it's getting nice and everything usually kind of dies down for the indoor stuff because there's always things going on for people and different kinds of events that the archery guys are at, different things. Which I think I was going to tell you about this before and then I forgot. But at the end of May, there's a really cool like 3 day. It's called the Northwest something Rendezvous. It's a trad archery only event, and it's 3 days up in super North Idaho, like up at Bonners Ferry, which is basically Canada. And it's a three
Yeah.
day shoot, 3 day shoot, and like camp out and stuff up in that area. Like I think it's Memorial Day weekend. It's like a big family type event too, which is really cool. So I think it rotates every year on which state in the Northwest hosts it, and it's been 6 years since Idaho's had it. And so this year they're having it up in super North Idaho. I think we might try and make it up there and like take everybody up and go do that. But the guys that put the course together have done a couple other like really big ones, and they said that they always do like these really novelty targets and like fun little trick things and stuff like that. So that one should be, I think we're looking at doing that. Might be pretty fun to do. But
Yeah.
actually shooting pretty well. Had those few of those arrows left that you had put the hybrid fletchings on,
Yeah.
and zipping those ones are flying really well. But then I had a couple of the other ones that you had built, those orange ones, the
Yep.
vectors. And I had a couple of those laying around still, so I took those last night too. And they actually they shoot pretty comparably, but the thing that I noticed with just I think I really like those hybrid vanes. They're so much quieter,
Yeah.
which was I think a little shocking when I tried them out. Like I could audibly tell the difference just one
Yeah.
arrow to the next going between them. But in terms of flight, like things are pretty dialed with both of those, which felt pretty good. I was zipping some good ones last night. I told you I took my boy, and I have a video I'll send, and maybe I'll post it, but probably won't post it. But I'll do a target, and he'll do and hit the little bow that he has is a little one piece recurve. And it's like 10 pounds, and it's got the little. He does the split finger because it's got the little rubber tabs on the string.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And like that go around the string, and he sits there and he did like 4 in a row last night, and there was what was it? It was like it's a big cobra, and it's like the back of a cobra.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It shows like the big cobra fanned out like that, and he was shooting at that. And then there was another one that was a wolf that was like at 14, and he dude, 14 yards. He drilled it like 3 times in a row with a little 10-pound bow. And like a couple of the guys are like, how old is he? And I'm like, 4.5. And they're like, oh my God. Like,
Yeah.
he would give him a few more years to be out shooting all of us. I'm like, he probably will be.
I can't remember the guys. Let me look it up so I can tell you real quick. But there's a guy I actually found. It's just because of those new Phoenix veins. Aaron Snyder had shared a story of this guy's, and his name is Newman Landa, and his Instagram is it's just
Great
Newman.
name.
But his boy actually has like the most perfect form ever.
Yeah.
And he started him like super young.
Yep.
But his whole page is dedicated. He's a level 3 coach and instructor for the USA Archery.
Oh,
and
okay.
he is like technician. Yeah. And when he was posting about those AAE veins, here's actually the post that he put up, right there.
Yep.
He was talking about them and how he was shooting them and some of his beliefs and philosophy on them. And some of the questions were in regards to, how they would fly. Would they get pass-throughs? Would they hang up coming through an animal?
Right.
So it was kind of cool to connect with him because I just hunted with him in Mexico. So I could give some real field experience and not sound like an idiot.
Right.
And just another cool guy that is awesome. And
that's cool.
Obviously is a great teacher because his kid is, like he said, he's got a video of his son shooting. He's like, if your bow doesn't look like this when the arrow leaves the riser, you need to get better. And he's like, somehow this kid never, ever doesn't do this. So it's just like the best form ever. And he's a 10 or 11-year-old kid, but
that's awesome.
I think it's awesome because Clay Hayes is another guy that I follow, and he takes his son Finn everywhere.
Yeah.
Finn has started to become a little killer on those pigs. I think he got a deer too last year, but Clay Hayes is a fascinating dude.
He's so awesome, guy. Dude. Yeah. He had a video, I think just a couple weeks ago, about a bow that he made while he was out in the backcountry. Like that was, did you see that video?
I saw
it was the most basic bow you can make, like if you need to make one in the backcountry kind of thing. And it was awesome. Like it was such a cool video just to see the process of that.
Well, speaking of processes and like making things, I sent you that video of the guys in Japan making the katana.
Yeah.
And as much like I do, I get in rabbit holes on stuff like that, but that whatever that page is, it's somebody dedicated to like Japanese culture and art.
Yeah.
And they were focusing in on these guys that were making bamboo bows. And it looks so simple in ways, but so refined and delicate in so many other ways. And it's just amazing to watch out of necessity where these techniques and tools and the thinking of how can I use the resources around me to my benefit. I mean, I know bamboo is very, very durable and strong. Would not be the first wood that I thought of for a bow, but and they cure the damn things in a smoker for 5 to 10 years. They make these limbs and then they hang them for 5 to 10 years because it hardens the wood. It gives them more rebound. But 2, it also brings out like a natural color that stain will not make. Yeah. So it's cool. And then I watched them make the Japanese longbows, like the ones that are off balance. So like the bottom is 2 feet and the top limb is like 4 feet. Yeah. So it's these crazy ass things, but there's 200 steps in the process. Wow. And they're all manual. And it's these dudes that are like 2 guys just working together to make these bows. And it got me thinking about kind of what we started this whole thing about, how fast-paced the world is and how kind of automated the world is. The Japanese and kind of even the Asian segment, the Asian continent, has really done probably a better job than anyone of like glorifying their heritage and their past in the sense of honoring the traditions of the way things are made. I mean, here we have leather workers and potters and paint. Like we have amazing craftsmen here. Yeah. But they're more of like, they're more the exception than the rule. And I think over there, it's probably closer to, I mean, they have amazing automation and technology too, but I still think that those people are regarded much, much higher in their society as masters and not just as like outsiders. Whereas here, it's like, people consider themselves a master if they do something once. You
Well, I
know,
think that's probably the ingrained martial arts culture that ties into everything about the culture. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
every part of it is a martial art where there are clear
yeah,
steps that you go through, and somebody can be really good, but there's
yeah.
going to be somebody who's taught that person that would be considered their master in that. You know what I mean?
Do you know how insane the tea culture is in China? Like the trade of tea, like
So
yeah,
yes, I was just
unbelievable.
gonna. So there's, I don't know if you've watched it. There's a show on Netflix. It's a food show, but it's one of my favorites just because it's real lighthearted and it's funny. But it's
Mm.
called Somebody Feed Phil, and
I've
it's Phil
seen it. I've never
Rosenthal.
watched an episode of it.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. He's the guy who created Everybody Loves Raymond. He's the like head writer and guy that created
Yeah,
that show. And apparently the parents in that show are based off of his real life parents.
perfect.
Like but he's hilarious and he travels all over. It's kind of like an Anthony Bourdain kind of thing where he just
Hmm.
travels and meets people and eats and whatever. But I just watched one last night where he was in he did one in Kyoto and then he did another one that I watched last night that he was in Taipei. But he went to this tea house and like all the different pouring the water on top of the pot to heat that from the outside and then like all these things you wait this exact amount of time. And he had said something, he's like, wow, this is a lot of like it's a lot of steps. Like a lot of people would think that this is just wasting a lot of time to get a lot of tea. And he said uh there was an old guy that he had met, I think it was in Kyoto or maybe when he was in Hong Kong, but he had said, uh everybody's really busy in their days. It's important to have a few moments that you waste time. And he was
Hmm.
referring to like the tea. And I was like, that's a really cool way to think about it. Cause he said it's important to waste time if it's for
Yeah.
stuff like this.
Well,
But it's pretty cool.
my introduction to it, and really the kind of beginning fascination of it, is a guy that I hunt with out at Big Chino. I
Mm.
won't say much more than that because I don't know
Yeah.
much about like he has some really really deep connections in the underground tea community in China. Like his shit
Okay.
comes like his tea bags come in like rice. Like they're not supposed to send it, but so they send it to him in rice bags, and then these like
Yeah.
little carafes of tea leaves. So it's like probably illegal. So nevertheless, anyway, but he was the same way. That motherfucker, we would come back, and I mean, I'm talking broke dick brutal days out in the heat, out in the hiking around, getting your ass kicked, missing an animal, whatever. It's like the hardest days that I've ever had hunting. And he comes back and he has this little tea set, and he goes through the process of making his tea, and then he always finishes. He comes with these like little tincture bottles, like old
Mhm.
time pharmacy bottles, like the brown
Yeah.
ones,
Yeah.
like a heroin addict almost, but it's like
Yeah.
they've got one shot of very, very, very high end Scotch whiskey in there. So he starts his return to camp with tea, and then he has a nightcap, and each day he has a different flavor.
That's
Sometimes
cool.
he'll blend a couple of them. The most interesting, curious dude. He's one of my favorite people that I've met in the hunting world
That's
because he's
cool.
so different, so
Yeah.
different, and just a fascinating guy. But he got me turned on to the tea stuff. Not that I drink a bunch of it, but just like how serious it is and how
Very.
deep it runs. Like it is, there are families that are like born, bred, and died by the tea leaves over
Yeah.
there, you know? So all that
100%.
stuff fascinates me. It just, I don't know. Like I said, it must be getting older because I appreciate those things a lot more.
Hmm.
But do you have anything like that you're just super into that would be unexpected? I mean, I got that way about knives, pretty heavy for
Yeah.
a while, but like not even to a level that I would call myself a collector. I was a user of just some really good knives. But dude, there's people get so crazy deep on this stuff.
There was, I mean, probably recently, meaning like the last year and a half to 2 years, and this is what I would consider the as deep as I get into it with, like you said, there being people that are way more
Mm-hmm.
even granular with this kind of stuff. But dude, coffee has been kind of like the one for me for the last couple of years, and like really learning about and understanding what beans from different countries actually like, learning how they taste and the differences between them, and messing with grind size and the different brew methods, and like really getting into espresso and then like the mocha pod and all those kind of things. Like that's probably the one that I can point to as the most recent. I did, man, I have these periods of time where I have like several of these little things that I can look back on, like kind of like you were saying with knives for a while. And you had a few, like you did motorcycles for a while. You had, I remember you telling me you did pool for a while too. Like, but
still doing pool.
Yep, I got
Liz kicked some ass, but still doing pool.
Yep, I got into carving, just like whittling.
Yeah,
for a long time, and would like just get boxes delivered of basswood, which is like the real easy one to learn on because it's real soft and stuff. But getting actual like carving knives and learning how to do different notch cuts and smooth, and like learn how to make little, like wood spirit faces and just like little pieces of stuff. I got real into that for a long time, and that was really fun. But like I have those phases where I really like you said, just getting honed in. And maybe it's like, I'm thinking about this now as I'm thinking this out. I don't think that that's inherently a bad thing, having a bunch of different time periods where I'm focusing on different things. But then I think about how we're talking Japanese culture, and they can have one singular focus that they focus on for 80 years to become a master of. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, do I want to be the dude who can have a little bit of something in everything? Or it's like, would it be cool to just be that masterful at one thing? There was that, and this is, it made me
Hero
think of
Dreams of Sushi.
Exactly. 10 freaking years to learn how to just do rice.
Yeah, rice. And then it was like 3 years to learn how to do the egg.
Yes.
And that was before you could ever touch the fish.
Yeah, exactly. It's crazy. In that Phil show that I was telling you, in the episode he was in Kyoto, he went into another tea house with a 95-year-old samurai.
Yeah.
And he was talking to him, and he said, how do you, he's trained in it since he was 16. So literally 70 years as a samurai. And he was saying, health wise, you look great, you move great, all this kind of stuff. He's like, what's the key to like living long, healthy life like you? And he said, scotch every night. And he goes, really? And he goes, it was amazing. I couldn't believe he said it. He goes, last year in 2023, he goes, I drank 106 bottles of scotch. I'm like, holy crap. Like, dude's drinking 2 bottles a week. Like, that's crazy. He's like Keith Richards. He's just preserved on the inside, man.
I was gonna say he's like might as well just shoot some formaldehyde. He's like preserving himself.
He'll live another 40 years.
This is a side note to that. So I was watching.
Awesome though.
Did you see the video I sent you of the guy playing ping pong? And I said actual murder. The guy, he like just hits it from the
floor on the backspin, and then it zips up around the net and just nicks the thing. It's
So you know like on the reels how like they'll have sequential like media about ping pong or whatever.
Yep.
The very next video was this guy, and he started studying activities in the extreme elderly, and he was like, the people who live the longest in the world are table tennis and what's the one with the birdie? Not croquet. It's badminton. And he said because the cerebellum is 10% of the brain's size, but it's 50% of the brain's neurological connectivity and like for function and recognition. And he said those sports are so fast that those synapses keep firing. And he's like,
and the hand-eye.
Yeah, hand-eye.
Yeah.
Like race car drivers are another one. But he was like, those people live the longest, fullest, most durable lives because the brain doesn't fail the body. A lot of times, that was my great grandmother's greatest fear. She said, I would rather lose full function of my body and keep my mind than lose my mind and have function in my body. Yeah. I've never forgotten her saying that. And that was just an interesting side piece that came up from that. But some of the shit that they do over in those Asian countries that we see, and it's like, man, these are amazing kids that are sitting here playing ping pong. There was a guy in the comment section this little girl was just going 100 miles an hour, just boom, 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 boom. And they were feeding her these ping pong balls as fast as she could hit them back. And this one guy in the comments, and it's sad but true, he was like, yeah, the first time she misses a ball, she's going to the mines, you know. And it's like, this ties into another weird story. So I was talking to a Chinese athlete at the Arnold one time. He's a weightlifter. I was a powerlifter, of course. And I was talking to him, and he said his sister was a diver. And over at the diving school, and they do that early recognition. Like they test you for things very early on. And it's like, that's your path. So like, even if you want to be a baseball player, if the path that you test well for is like swimming, you're going to be a swimmer in China. And what he was saying was at 4 years old, they take the divers and they put them on like a 7-meter dive. So like already huge. I mean, imagine being 4 years old, 2.5 feet tall, and you got a 7-meter high dive. They put a concrete wall 4 feet from the diving board. So if you over rotate or extend your legs or hands, you're scraping your shit on the way down. And he was like, she would come home with like scabs, you know, come home as in they would see her like one day out of every 3 months or something like that.
Jeez.
But it's a model that I question. And again, like this is tiptoeing into some weird waters here, because it's like, I absolutely despise communism and the way that it runs. But in a country, and maybe this is too deep of a conversation, but in a country where you can look around and see that our youth are struggling for like discipline and direction, is there a way in a, you know, quote unquote free state to impart more of that discipline on children? Because we used to have it, you know, you used to get physical training in school, a lot of gym and education like that. I don't know how we bring some of that quality back, because you know, you can't go to a militaristic raising like they have over there.
What was the school that was always that JFK reference? Was it LaSalle? Was that what it was called?
Yeah, there's LaSalle.
There's that video of all the like the high school age guys that were training, and it's all black and white, and they're doing the walks on the dip bar with their hands and all, and like every dude in the school is like not big and jacked, but lean and fit, and that was everybody in the school.
Yeah. Well, you know, I think our problem is that we've gotten a little bit too comfortable. We think the defenses are too strong, and we think our guns are too powerful, like as the individual. Yeah. Like, oh, I own a gun, so I am John Wick.
Right.
That was something I was talking about in my story the other day. You know, New York has basically made ownership of a firearm at all for a citizen completely impossible, nearly impossible. But the criminals keep getting these passes, and it's like the law is supposed to protect the individual. And I think the NRA and even individual gun owners like ourselves, our battle cry should not be, we deserve our guns, we should have our guns, let us keep our guns. It should be, we need to be better with our guns, we need to be trained and educated with our guns, and we need to be fully capable and prove that time and time again. Like, we can't have these random, I mean, this is too deep of a conversation, but nevertheless, I think it goes back to some of that sense of mastery. Like, do you think mastery is respected in this country? I guess this is where I'm going. Do you think that mastery in this country is respected the way that it once was? Because even in my time in powerlifting, obviously you had Louis Simmons and Boris Shako and these guys who dedicated 40, 50 years. Yeah. I dedicated a long time of lifting. And then almost immediately as a coach, I was recognized at a level that was probably unfair to the, not knowledge base, because I was a good coach, right? But like, I probably shouldn't have had the fervor from it. Sure. That I had. You know, I shouldn't have had 25 people sign up day one. Yeah. You know, and 50 people sign up for a beta group. Like, shouldn't have been that strong of a push. But my notoriety was there, so I was perceived probably more masterful than I was. So I'm talking about it from the inside here. Mm-hmm. But on the outside, looking back, there are people who have literally, they'll do one meet and they're a phenomenal athlete and they'll have a great number, and then they're offering coaching services. Yeah. It's like, you know, Larry Bird wasn't the greatest coach. He was a great player. Michael Jordan was not the greatest business owner. He was a great player. Gretzky, you know, I don't know how, and I'm not considering myself in that class of greatness. Right. I do not. Right. But I don't know how good of a coach the elites can ever be. I think they could be leaders, but coaching is a totally different thing. And I think coaching is in the same level of master, like Phil Jackson,
Yeah.
master, Wooden, master. Like those guys were masterful in their craft. I just don't know that we put as much emphasis on the desire for mastery as we do as like the celebrity sense of mastery,
And even
I don't know if there's any,
as it relates, not even in athletics, physical sport, that whole realm of things like you're saying, but even if we take it back to the makers conversation, right? Like the guys who are the ultimate master craftsmen or whatever, that isn't as important when things can get delivered next day. That's passable. Something that it's what I'm looking for, and this is good enough, and I can get it tomorrow and save 70%. You know what I'm saying? Like that has made a lot of the things that the masters are great at, I think makes their work more valuable in a sense, but it's a weird, like it makes it more valuable and less valuable at the same time.
Yeah.
Because for somebody who is a master, it's like there is a clear difference when somebody sees something like Francesca's stuff, right? Like buying just a regular leather wallet off of Amazon, it's going to be fine for what you need. But then you hold one that Francesca made out of crazy cool leathers, and you're like, okay, I can see why this is priced what it is.
That's the thing. Like the custom knives that I have, they're different. The custom cutting board that I have, my friend Weston made me one. The guys at Montana Block Company made me one. I've done woodworking myself. This table right here, the chairs, this table over here, all are things that I had part and parcel in helping make. So they have deep meaning to me, and I can look at them right now. There's no nails. There's just wood plugs as the securing wedges. Like it's pretty awesome to look around and think that I had a part in this. Like the knife that I made with Neil Kamamura at Zach Brown's place. And then Zach gave me an alligator skin to make the sheath from that he killed. So like you can't buy that, and much like you're talking about that wallet, like you can buy an elephant wallet, you can buy those kind of things online, but understanding where that thing came from and the person having a tie to where it came from and the thought that goes into how they stitch it and all this other stuff, or even my freaking bows. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know that I will ever appreciate luxury in a sense of like widespread definition. Like
right.
A Lamborghini doesn't necessarily turn me on. Like I can appreciate one. If I had the money, I would probably, if I had exorbitant money, I would probably have one just to own one. But if I had the ability to buy that or something else, I'm probably going to buy like a 70s muscle car or a 60s muscle car.
Yeah.
I would much rather have something that was built a certain way in a certain time, and then have somebody that is a master at not refurbishing, but like resto mod type, restoring, but like keeping it somewhat original. But man, I would find somebody that was a master at that. So you have this clash of both worlds. I just don't know that people just want the look of luxury more than they actually want the luxury, I think.
It's kind of always been the case though, isn't it? Like that's why the faux brands exist.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The Gucci that's spelled Gucci.
Chattagoochee. Right. Have you seen those? The Chattagoochee or the
that's funny. I was going to ask you, because we've been bringing up a lot of the Japanese culture on a lot of side of this stuff. The show Shōgun, I've been
all right.
Super. You'd love it. I know you said you hadn't watched it yet, but like it is so up your alley of stuff, and I think it might be one of, honestly, in the television world of things, might be one of the better shows made in the last handful of years because of the things that we were talking about with the attention to detail, like the level of historic accuracy that they went to make this show. And it's going to probably turn off a whole segment of people right off the bat, because it's all spoken in Japanese except for the English dude that's in the thing. So it's all subtitled. They have on Hulu a dubbed version in English if you want to go like old style kung fu dubbed version, right? But
Enter the Dragon.
Yeah, exactly. But the show itself is so well done. And any more like these high budget television series are as well made as most movies, you know?
Yeah.
And it's really, really well done. And I'm finding it fascinating just from a historical perspective of all this stuff. But then the actual writing of the show, it's awesome. And it's still happening like weekly. So, I mean, this season's not done yet or anything, but I'm awesome. One episode behind, but you need to check it out, and anybody listening, check it out. If it's on Hulu, but it's awesome.
I don't want to disrespect the guy that we were talking. So every episode, just to give you guys a little clarity, it's not like Ross and I have a map of things that we talk about. We kind of have a couple of bullet points that we know we're going to talk about, and then it goes.
Yeah.
But before every show, we have a 10 or 15 minute kind of like
pre-production
podcast, like our podcast, and just kind of like debriefing the last week or whatever. But he mentioned this show, and I don't know the actor's name, but he was in The Last Samurai. He was kind of the guy that was against the Tom Cruise character.
Yep.
He was in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. But I do know that he is a very, very high-end, respected martial artist himself. I think he is actually trained in the samurai way.
Hiroyuki Sanada.
No, there you go, that guy. And no disrespect to the martial art and the samurai culture. I think he has definitely pursued training in that method. I don't know if it's exclusive, but anyway, I did see an interview yesterday about it on one of the reels as it was coming through, and his kind of passion for making it historically accurate, or as accurate as it could be, and kind of fighting back against Hollywood, who wants to make it like explosions and sex scenes and whatever. It's more of like, no, we're doing it this way, or we're not doing it all. And I think that is when an actor that has a personal tie to something has some finger in the direction that a project goes, those tend to be better for me. And that was kind of like Cillian Murphy with Peaky Blinders.
Yeah.
That was an area of interest of history for him, and he wanted it to look and feel a certain way when you watch those shows.
That's a great series.
Mad Men was just the same way, like the curators for the wardrobe. That show just is one of my favorites of all time. Like the writing, the storyline, all of it was just really, really good. But yeah, I will definitely check that out, because I don't know what it is other than it has to be Snake Eyes from G.I. Joe when I was a kid. He was the ninja, and Storm Shadow, Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow. They were like the good and the bad. And ninjas were like the thing when I was a kid. Like 1984 through 1989 was like high-end ninja culture in movies. You know, you had the Beverly Hills Ninja shit. You had all that other, like that was even the spoof comedy. Chris Farley, I mean, you can't be a fail there. But it was just funny because I can remember for two Halloweens in a row, 5 and 6 year old Halloweens, I wore the same exact ninja outfit, and I'd even worn it to school a couple of times, like, and gotten in trouble. I would wear my normal clothes to school and put that on in the bathroom. Like I thought I was going to be a ninja, and I would try to sneak around the school, like not be seen. And I was like, "What are you doing, kid? Like you look like an idiot." But so that anyway. Long story short, Asian culture has always been a very, very unique draw to me. Even like some of Dan Carlin's stuff, like the Mongols. But yeah, I will definitely check it out just on those grounds alone, because some of those movies, like even Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, Last Samurai, just fascinate the crap out of me.
He was, he was in that. He was in, he's in Rush Hour 3.
47 Ronin, was he in that?
47 Ronin.
That's a weird, but actually surprisingly good movie.
It's a under the radar
with
kind
Keanu
of movie.
Reeves.
He was in Westworld. He's been in a bunch of stuff. Like he's all over the place. But it's funny because we talk about the difference between how the shows for TV like that even are high budget shows. I was reading a guy who was a producer in film primarily, but he said when a writer or director comes to me with an idea and they want to make it a movie, he's like, my first question to them, he's like, because you think about all of it is storytelling, and you're using just whatever the medium is. So television's obviously much different than film and movies. Even though most people now kind of conflate the two because of these like super high production television shows that are these mini series or whatever, that like, even like Terminal List, like 15 years ago, that just would have been a movie, you know?
Right.
But he said, why does this story need to be told in film rather than television? And he's like, most people haven't thought like that step through because they think, I just want to make it a movie. But you have to think about what is important about it being a movie. Like the whole point of a film is the visual experience. He's like, he's like, and there are like these really dialogue heavy, intense movies that aren't much to look at, but he's like, would that be better suited as a television series rather than like something that's trying to be visually spectacular to witness and be in a theater and have that whole experience, which is actually what was going to lead me into the next thing I was going to tell you about. Because I told you I went the other night and went by myself. I went to go see Dune 2. And dude, I don't think I talked to you after I saw it. And did you see the first one from a couple years ago?
No, but we got to go back to that. But finish your point. But I have not seen either one.
Okay, so I had not even, I was not even aware of the story. Like I think I had heard about it and known that it was a novel, but I'd never read any of the books, and I'd never seen the 80s adaptation that they made of it. So when I saw the first one, I didn't even see the first one until like a handful of months ago. I'm like, all right, I'll just sit down and watch it finally. Watch it, and the first one's really good, visually kind of awesome, but it's kind of slow because it's a setup movie for this one. And then I go in and I do like, I've done this the last handful of times I've gone to the theater, because I usually will go to movies that nobody else will want to go with me in my house. Right. And so I'll wait until everybody's asleep and I'll go to like a 10 o'clock showing. And then usually when I go, I'm the only one in the theater, or there's like 2 other people in there. And it's like, yeah, it's a long movie. I'm out of there at 1 o'clock in the morning, whatever. But it's like, I can go and just hang out and watch a movie in the theater. So I went last week to go see Dune 2. And I'm not kidding you, man. It might have been the best movie I've seen in 10 years. Like in a theater experience. Like I'm going to go watch it again, because I've heard there's things you pick up the second time watching, especially in the theater, that now you know what's happening. Like you can kind of do that thing where you're looking for these other things now. But from
Fight Club's that
from
way.
a visual perspective, just the cinematography of everything and what they did visually, it's unbelievable. I literally sat there with like my mouth hung open for half the movie. Like, this is insane. And the story, from what I've gathered from all the people that have written reviews that are the book fans, like there's some liberties that they took with a couple of the characters that kind of ticked off some of the people from the book. But from what I've gathered, and a lot of it has to do with what's her name's main character, what is her name, starts with a Z, the gal.
I don't know. Catherine Zeta-Jones.
she's dating the Tom Holland plays Spider-Man, Zendaya, there it is. Anyways, her character, they kind of tried to pull a little bit of a woke thing on her character, that most people, I think, watching this catch on to and have the opposite reaction of what I think they were intending for when they did it to her character. So it kind of backfired, which makes it even cooler, in my opinion, that was the case.
Yeah.
But the acting in it was awesome. Austin Butler, who did Elvis, the big Elvis movie that came out.
Oh yeah.
He's like the main bad guy in this movie, and crushed it. He said his 2 big influences, now I can't think of the movie that it was from, but it was it was Gary Oldman. What the hell's the movie?
Gary Oldman is like, if he's in it, it's amazing.
Oh, he's so
like
good.
He's one of the best.
But he said Heath Ledger's Joker and Gary Oldman in one of his movies, where I can't remember what movie it was, were like his 2 primary, influences on how he created this version of this character.
Was it The Professional?
But dude, it's seriously so killer. Like I was going into it thinking I would enjoy it just from like the big spectacle of all of it, and I enjoyed the first one. But I came out of it, I'm like, holy crap, that was awesome. Like, I wanted to go back and watch it again right then. So if you haven't watched the first one, like, I'm talking to you specifically, not everybody listening, watch it and then go see the second one, and do it in the theater so you can have like the whole theater part experience.
So here's the funny tie to Dune. So I had never even like Josh Brolin.
He's
I
great.
follow him on Instagram. He's a super cool dude. Have a couple of like proxy connections to him. I've never met him, but we have some mutual people that have been cool to both of us. Richard Baguette, the guy that makes my bracelets and stuff, one of them. Jason Momoa being another.
Yep.
Anyway, I'm sitting at dinner in Mexico with George, Nick Fisher of AAE. George is he's a guide in Arizona. He's a personal friend of both Nick and Dale, guides Dale and his elks. And then Dale Perry, who owns Evolution Outdoors. And we're sitting there, and Dune 2 comes up on the screen, and Dale's sitting there looking at his menu, and he goes, "Oh, I did the music for the first one." Puts his head back down and starts looking at his thing, and I'm like, "What? Like, what?" And he goes, yeah, I did the composition for that, And I was like, what in the hell? So, I mean, Dale is just like the internet. He's like the most interesting man in the world. The more you find out about him, like the more interesting he is. But he's I can't remember if he said he's won or been nominated for 2 Emmys and 3 Grammys, or 3 Grammys and 2 Emmys or something like that for film work. And the guy is just a fascinating individual. But that was the reason I was going to watch it, just out of like respect for this dude's work.
Yeah.
And so now I have another reason. But my son, he loved it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Like
I said, I never saw it, so I'll have to check it out. I was going to ask you about a movie. Shit, I can't even remember, man. But to go back to your point, I'm the same way about movies. Like growing up, my grandmother used to take me to the theater. We have the Kentucky Theater in Lexington, and this place is like one of the historic buildings in Kentucky. And it's the red. I mean, it's got the engravings in the ceilings. The hand rests in the chairs are like very, very old school carved. And every picture, I don't know if they still do it because it's like on its 37th owner trying to preserve it. But they used to have the red curtain that would open to the screen. And they've always got the cheapest popcorn, the cheapest drinks, because it's part of the National Historic Society. So they get government funding to stay open. So they're not charging you an arm and a leg for a ticket. They're not charging you an arm and a leg for the stuff. Their matinees are amazing. And now they do classics. They do classics all day long. Cool. And they'll do new releases at night. So you never really know week to week what's going to be up there, because they don't tell you until like that Sunday night they post a week. So around Halloween, they do a lot of the old, slasher films and Rocky Horror Picture Show and that kind of stuff. So I'm a matinee guy. But one of my favorite things used to be, this is actually when I was training at Westside back in like 2009. I would go, because I didn't really hang out with a lot of people outside the gym. And I would go to the theater up there at Easton as late as I could go, like the 11 o'clock show, and do the same thing that you're talking about. Like, it was me and like 3 other couples that were banging each other in the seats, but I'm sitting here watching the show. But yeah, that's one of my favorite things to do, is like, if a movie is compelling enough to get me to go to it, I love it. And especially love the classics. Like I watched the Breakfast Club at the Kentucky a few years ago, like 12:30 in the afternoon, me and 4 other people or whatever in there. But I just love that stuff. And I miss when movies were fucking good. I miss that so much, because so many movies just blow.
Really
they absolutely
does.
Suck.
You'll think this is good. So at the theater that I went to, it's like one of the newer theaters in the area, and there's it's very extravagant looking. Like everything you walk inside, it's got like the real nice patterned carpet, like gold plated looking everything. It's like the very kind of, really cool. But they have a balcony in almost every theater in there that's 21 and up. And so you can go in, and the ticket was the same price. So it's not like you got to spend more to be in the 21 and up. But I did that when I went the other night, and you go upstairs, like right when you get in, they have this regular snack bar downstairs, but then you go upstairs and there's like another snack bar upstairs that you can get, like alcohol and drinks and stuff, and then go to So like I'm going to I got just a small popcorn, and I'm like, oh man, this banquet sounds really good right now. So I like walked up to the thing and like got a can of banquet, and like went to the theater. I'm just sitting up in the balcony by myself. There was like 3 people that were down below. Then I'm like, peasants. as I'm cracking open
right.
cracking open my course, got my feet up on the thing crossed, and the thing reclines way back. It was killer, dude. It was such a fun time.
It'd be a cool concept for a theater if they had like in the old theaters, they
Class
had
separation of the seats.
well, definitely for sure. Peasants always below. No, like if you could buy like a 4-pack, like a 4-seat, and have your own like little balcony viewing section. Have you seen the meme where it's like Abraham Lincoln and it's him at Ford's Theater and he's like, "This show's about to be lit, FR, like for real, for real." Yeah, it's like this show's about to be fire, for real, for real. I gotta find it because I saw that yesterday. And I was laughing so hard because obviously it's fake, but the dude, it's a real dude, but he looks just like him. And I was thinking, how funny would that have been? Because that probably would have been real.
Yeah,
like
for sure.
Like if Trump was at some like the show that everybody wants to see, it's going to be like, "Oh, we're here at the show."
Dude,
and, Biden would be like, "Oh,
I saw a tweet of a guy, and he was talking. It's funny that you just brought this up because I just saw this the other day, and he was like, "Do you guys realize how crazy it is for him to be killed by a dude who was a famous actor and like very good looking and the younger brother of another famous actor, and when he jumped off the stage, he yells Sic Semper Tyrannis, which his older brother played famously Brutus." That's so good.
He's gonna be lit.
So good. So his older brother played Brutus, like famously, like he's a famous actor.
Oh,
and
okay, yeah.
Sic Semper Tyrannis is one of Brutus's line.
Yeah.
Right. And so he goes, that would be the equivalent today of Liam Hemsworth killing the Prime Minister of Australia and then yelling, "I should have went for the head" when he gets down, and then Chris Hemsworth having to leave the Avengers press tour and explain how he has nothing to do with it. That's so funny, dude.
That would be an awesome, like, if somebody, have you seen those ones? I think I've sent you a guy before where he's talking about like the history of words, or like hermatocrit moon. Was that what it was? Anyway, have you heard about the moon rusting? Have you heard about this? So this is where this all starts. He's like, okay, so there's this term, I think it's called hermatocrit moon or I can't remember. But anyway, it basically translates from the Bible as blood moon, right? Because they talk about in Revelations when the sun goes dark and the moon turns to blood. Fast forward to Greek, whatever the word is for blood, it basically means a certain type of thing. And this particular rust that is happening on the moon is called whatever that blood rust would be. So now they're talking about it in a biblical context, but this guy does these 1-minute like breakdowns of science that meets old stories and all this whatever. It would be funny to see somebody take like historical context and apply them as if they were today. Like just like what you did right there. That would be hilarious. One other thing that would be really cool is Derek Witzke had an idea one time. We were somewhere together at a coaching event, and he said the coolest page that you could ever make would be "You should have been there." Like that's the page. It's called "You Should Have Been There," and there's one photo from the night, and it's like the defining photo of the night. And it's not like you're sitting there with a camera crew taking 500 photos. It's like you're just looking around. And it's like, yeah, this encapsulates what it is. And you just snap that photo, and it's like the caption is also "You should have been there." That's cool. And it's like, and it's only for like, it only matters to your friends that were there, like, or the people that were with you, you could see. And it would be like entertaining, I'm sure, to view that from the outside. But like something like that would be really cool. Oh. Damn. We covered an hour in about a minute.
I love when that happens. We got updates that we'll do for the next giveaway that we're actually going to start on April 1 while we continue getting a couple of things lined up for what's going to be a part of it. This is going to be the recurve one. We have some good things that are already lined up. We're just waiting to get a few more things dialed before we put the giveaway out. So the start date on that's going to be April 1st. But other than that, we appreciate you all.
Thanks so much for listening to us ramble. There's never really any set point direction from start to finish, but we always get somewhere pretty fun and cool. So thanks for sticking around. Thanks for listening, sharing, supporting the page, joining the memberships, all of it. It really does matter. So thank you.